What's happening, YouTube? On today's video, I'm going to show you how to fix the pickup selector on your electric guitar. Now, the other day when I was playing my Firebird here, I was having an issue where the bridge select was working, the neck select was working, but when I was in the center position, the neck select actually kept cutting out. That tells me it's probably a problem with my pickup selector here, seeing as both pickups individually work, but together something's going wrong. There's probably a wire that came loose, or this being a Chinese-made Epiphone, the electronics themselves are probably just faulty. So I'm going to replace this with a new switch from Switch Pro. I'll link that in the description in case you're interested in picking one up. And that should hopefully take care of our problem here. So that works. That works. Seems like it works, but when I turn it off, that happens. So that's definitely a switch issue. Let's fix that. So for this, you're really just going to need two things. You need some electronics grade solder. Any old solder will not do. You want something that is specifically for electrical repair to make sure that you're getting a nice clean signal running through your switch. You need yourself a soldering iron. This is a 3-way toggle switch, which is what you're going to need for this, unless your guitar is different. And just make sure that you buy the appropriate switch. First thing that we're going to do is to remove our toggle. Then we'll take off the pick guard and we should have access to everything inside. Now mine loosens by hand, but depending on what sort of guitar you have, that could be different. Just make sure, keep that in mind. Do not lose this hardware because, again, depending on the switch that you buy, you might need either that big screw-on nut or this ring itself. Now this definitely feels loose. It's just kind of sitting in there. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those wires came disconnected and that's the source of our issue. But either way, I'd like to upgrade this switch with a superior quality one. So let's remember to use the right tool for the job here. I am going to use a drill just for removing this. I'm using a very fine tip on it. When I put these back in, I'm going to use a hand screwdriver because there's no point in over tightening these and then potentially stripping them. So let's carefully open this up. That pick guard is off. There's our electronics cavity. And if I look closely at this, it's hard to tell. It actually looks like everything is connected. So it could be something faulty with the switch itself. So as you probably noticed, my two switches are a little different. So this is the switch that's coming out of the Firebird here. And it has a whole bunch of little wires, and you're probably wondering, what are they doing? But basically what's happening here is that the middle one, where these two are connecting, that's your output jack. So that's the one that's actually coming out and sending signal to your amp or whatever it is. And then the ones on either side, that's your bridge and your neck pickup. And the one in the middle, down below here, is your ground. So when we use the Switchcraft switch, you're going to see that, again, we have these two prongs here. These, again, will be the bridge and the neck pickup. This big middle one is the ground. And then finally back here, get that to focus. There we go. These two rabbit ears, that's your output jack. These will get bent together and then soldered. So if your wires come out looking like that, I would definitely clean them up. Give yourself some room to work here. Just strip a little more away. The ends of these were a mess. I kind of noticed as I was pulling them off. They were already pretty frayed. And it looked like they just used a ton of solder on this from the factory. I wonder if that was kind of part of what was interfering. And the ground especially, it's just, as you can see, it's just absolutely covered in it. It isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not ideal. Let me get some of that off without stripping the whole thing. Let's see. Pull more of that through. Okay, so I have everything connected here. Hardest one by far was the output jack, just because of the limited amount of wires that I had to work with. These all get tucked under. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this back in here, right where we found it. It'll sit right in there. Make sure that you have this oriented properly. My red was my bridge or treble, so I want that down just because that's how this thing's oriented. I'm gonna take our pick guard, slide it around. This one's a little different than the one I replaced, so we'll put this on first. Here we go. Get this nice and secure on there. Making sure we have space to place it and that all of our screws are still gonna line up. And they do, so that's great. Then we'll put the selector knob on there. If your switch came with one, sometimes they're already hooked on there. Now that we've reinstalled the switch, as I said at the start here, we're gonna come back by hand and just reinstall all of our screws. Anchoring down our pick guard here. Start down here in the neck position. Seems to be working. Let's try the bridge position. And finally, the one that wasn't quite working. Roll these back. Can you hear it? That's good. Still hear it? It looks like we fixed our problem here. That old faulty toggle switch there. Not necessarily a hard mod. The hardest part of this modification, or repair in this case, would be the soldering. You really have to take your time and really have to go slow so that you're not dripping solder all over the place and connecting wires that shouldn't be connected and creating all sorts of issues for yourself. So if you like this video, please drop a like, a subscribe, comment even. Tell me if I did something wrong. But for the most part, she's playing great and sounds great. I played around more with the volume knobs here, and everything seems to be crossfading correctly in that middle position. So it looks like we fixed this, and hopefully this can help you fix your problems. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you on the next.